Hey there, hope you're doing good. In earlier videos, which I link in the description, I talked about building a prototype to validate an app before you build the real app and why you should do that. In this video, I wanted to illustrate how I made these demos for Futurecam, which was my image processing startup. Before I wrote the actual code, I built these demos. Excuse me for the wrong orientation. This is a screen recording that I'm going to play and narrate over it. These are 7 different demos. So these were all built as iPhone apps because I knew the tools well, right? I'm a productive iPhone engineer, but you can use whatever tools you want. You can build it on the web, you can build it on Android, you can use some UX design tool or prototyping tool, you can use something like Mockflow, which is a very productive tool for this kind of work. So it's not about the tool, it's about what you are familiar with. Futurecam uses advanced image processing algorithms. And in the demos, I faked these algorithms. I implemented them on the Mac. I didn't optimize them to run on the iPhone. In actual usage, the algorithms both capture photos and process them. In this fake app, I captured photos manually and then gave it to the algorithms. And they were running on the Mac, they were not optimized, they would take up 32 GB of memory, they would run for hours. They wouldn't handle a bunch of edge cases. You had to manually check the result. If you wanted to change any parameters, you had to go and change the code because there was no UI. The intelligent features which we have weren't there, so you had to manually configure all the settings, etc. But the core of the algorithm was still there, but they were running on the Mac. In some cases, I wrote some throwaway code. In some cases, I used an open source tool called Image Magic. So, however it may be, I ran these algorithms on the Mac and they saved a bunch of output files which I loaded into the iPhone app. Let's see one of them, the first one. So you see this seaside view with this slider, and as you change it, the shutter speed changes. And you get a milky effect. Depending on your creative vision, you as a photographer may have a different eye, a different preference from me. So this app helps each of us take photos the way we want to. It's not about imposing a uniform look on everyone. And this can be changed after capture, as you can see. Unlike an SLR where you have to set the parameters and then capture the photos. And if you don't like the photo, you can't change the shutter speed, you have to throw it away and take another photo. And if that doesn't turn out well either, you need to take a third one. And by the time you're done playing with all of this, the sun will have set and you have lost the moment. With Futurecam, you don't. The second benefit is that SLRs present it in technical terms like, do you want a shutter speed of 1 by 20 seconds? You don't know what that looks like unless you're a photographer, and even then you may not be sure. So this UI presents it in terms that you care about. Output versus input. You're dragging the slider and changing the output. Imagine you're driving a car and you press the accelerator, it goes faster. Imagine if the car said, do you want to burn 3.5 ml of petrol per second? Like, I don't know how fast or slow will the car go if you do that. So we don't want that. Now, as you drag this slider, the image changes because of the algorithms. And that's how it works in Futurecam. But in this demo, I have 7 different images that are pre-computed and stored in the app. And as you drag the slider, it is just showing you one of the 7 images. It looks like the image is being modified, but it's just being replaced. So these are the kind of hacks you should do. It's all about hacking it and faking it. It's not about building the app. The second one, and these are all actually features within the app. But in these demos, it was easier to implement them as separate iPhone apps. So that's what I did. It's the same concept with a different illustration, different image to illustrate it. You can again see the milky effect as you go to the right. This might be useful to indicate speed because the very first version looks like the train has stopped. Maybe that's not what you want to convey. Maybe you want to have a lot of blur to indicate that it's going at high speed or just a little. Like this to indicate some movement. You can still see the American flag at the center, for example, just above the play button. So you are still able to see detail, but just a hint of blur to indicate movement. This is one more. Again, in the first version, looks like the vehicles are stopped. As you go to the end, you get a very kind of abstract or expressionist, whatever they call it, kind of style, where it's very dreamy and contemplative. And you may think about how are we living our lives and is this the right way to live our life? And we build these concrete jungles and all these philosophical thoughts, if that's what you want to convey. Notice that as the headlights of the locomotive extend, so do their reflection on the railway tracks in front. This is a multi-exposure feature. As you drag the slider, you get more moons, including the dim one between the buildings, if you see. You can show the passage of the moon. This feature didn't make it to the final app, and that's the point of demos, to decide what to build. You should build a lot at a low level of fidelity as a demo. Validate it with users. Maybe some of them users don't want. Maybe some of them, after you build, you yourself see that it has limited use, like this moon thing. This one I took probably 8 hours to capture, from midnight till 8 a.m. or something like that. Now, in practice, hardly anyone would spend that much time, and I couldn't think of many use cases myself. And users were also like, okay, this is good, but the others are more interesting. So I built others. This will save 10x the effort as compared to building everything to production quality, fixing the bugs, optimizing it, building the UI, optimizing the UX, doing everything, and then concluding it's not good. This is another feature which is an opposite of a light trail. The light trail, where you saw the lights moving, it extends bright objects. Here, dark objects like the bird are getting extended. This is a feature most apps don't have. And notice it doesn't just copy paste the bird. The one on the left, extreme left, the wings are in a different position. So it's dynamic. So anyway, I hope this gave you ideas on how to build demos, show them to users, and validate your app quickly.